Yo, you are listening to another episode of Mailbag Monday by the Money Matters podcast. We are recording at Bitcoin price 68,740 US dollars and coming to you live at Bitcoin block 845,273. So this is the Mailbag Monday, recorded on Sunday, released on Monday. I'm your host, Jack, and I've got a full staff. I've got my parents, Brooke and Bill. How you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
And I've got my best friend, Dylan. How you doing?
Excellent.
Amazing. Okay. I think we've got plenty to talk about today. I'm a little under the weather, so bear with my voice here, but we've got the ETH ETF and banks passing legislation and a lot changing in DC. We've got Trump, speaking of, who's now very publicly advocating for Bitcoin and seems to be a big part of his campaign. And then maybe a little bit of Ross to end it. As Bitcoiners, we've all wanted to see Ross free, and now it seems like this is as close as we've ever gotten. Before that, let's do dollar bill and hear Dad's thoughts on the price action this week.
I mean, last week was kind of took off the week. I'm looking at week over week. When I talked to you guys before, gold is 2,400, now it's 2,330. So I mean, everything seems to have backed off, but these are still double-digit % year-over-year gains. I still my premise is still the same. You've got precious metals, real estate, the stock market, all showing three very different markets with very different supply demand fundamentals. As you know, I think gold is more of an emerging market story, right? India, China, real estate, maybe more of a retiring baby boomer story, but they all have almost exactly similar 15, 16, 17% gains. I think the one common denominator, right, is of course they're all priced in dollars. So I'm trading, if it's priced in dollars, I'm trading it from the long side. That always begs the question of what would have to change. And in my opinion, any of those markets, fall out of this, like I said, double-digit year-over-year uptrend. The one that I would be most concerned about is, as you know, gold. I think it costs $1,100 to dig an ounce of gold out of the ground, and there is plenty of it. And so if you can hold it right year over year, 20% gain in gold and silver, which I think there's ample supply of it, that would be the first canary in the coal mine that would roll over, in my opinion. But until then, I'm still trading everything from the long side. Get along, get paid.
Get along, get paid. I agree. What do you think about all of the rhetoric from DC, from Trump? Do you think that stuff is priced in? When do you think that the market would start to trade what we're hearing and seeing from Washington, D.C.?
I'll go ahead and torture my universal asset analogy again, right? The thought experiment, right, is, right, if you're in the old science fiction movie, when the acid spills, it burns a hole in the floor of the laboratory before fizzling out in the basement, right? Now imagine an acid that's so powerful, it's going to eat into whatever it touches. Where would it stop, right? Certainly not the basement, but that's the point of the thought experiment. Powerful ideas are going to eat into everything they touch, but it's not always predictable or intuitive what that's going to look like. So when you read the white paper, maybe you thought that's one of the most powerful 9 pages I've ever read. But did you think it's going to disrupt a U.S. presidential election? Did you think it was going to disrupt El Salvador's politics, right? In a way, you might have thought, I'll bet you it's going to disrupt online commerce. That's kind of specifically what it's designed for, which it really hasn't done as much as it's disrupted other areas. But anyways, that's the point of the thought experiment. It's going to disrupt whatever it touches. And you're going to have it's in a non-intuitive and hard to predict manner. Here we go. Now, Bitcoin is a focus of a U.S. presidential election. It has impacted, right, South American politics. It has impacted online commerce. I don't know what ETFs, lending.
Kenya is now
Yeah, what's
mining
the
Bitcoin. And
Chase going to do? Try to slow it down? And now, are they reviewing? Are banks reviewing their business models? I mean, it is seeping in like a universal asset. I'm going to keep torturing that thought experiment because I think it is. It's the right way to look at this.
I agree. Get long, get paid. Sit on your hands, get long, get paid. Okay. First topic. I think we talk about the approval of the Ethereum ETF. I was in New York. I think the reason I'm sick, just a lot of travel. I was in New York, had some meetings. I stopped by Bloomberg, and I gave my opinion on the Ethereum ETF and its approval. It seemed like the SEC and Gensler did a complete 180, where they were very much not in favor of approving the Ethereum ETF. And then one day we woke up and it was approved. You'd have to assume some outside influence. I take the position that, of course, maybe now Biden has to support Bitcoin and crypto because he's actively losing voters in the election as he stands in its way. I take the opinion, I found it a lot more interesting to think about a bank's incentive. Banks get a really bad deal buying bonds. I mean, they're just losing a lot of money having to support this macro environment where rates are this high, deficits are this big, they're getting crushed. And what banks don't want is everyone in the world running to a financial ecosystem that's without their reach. It's outside of their reach and their control. What a bank would hate is if everyone said, oh man, these are big deficits and assets are going really high. Let me go buy a financial instrument that's outside the purview of Jamie Dimon. And so the fact that they got to launch a Bitcoin ETF and it was the best performing ETF launch ever, and they started to make a lot of money. I mean, they're making a ton of money. I have the opinion that they lobby and said, we want more approvals because we got to find a way to do business and monetize this economic environment. Because the fact that we have to buy bonds right now is the worst deal in the world. And so I think banks run government. Governments don't actually call the shots, right? Dimon is more powerful than Gensler. And so that was my take on Bloomberg. And I still stand by that, is that it's a bad deal if banks have to buy bonds and everyone else in the world gets to go outside of Dimon's reach and buy Bitcoin. And so they want to be within the reach of where everyone is running to, which seems to be Bitcoin and crypto. And they want to launch as many of these financial products as they possibly can so that they can monetize it and stay alive and be a part of the industry. That's my take. So they went to Gensler and said, sorry, buddy, we're going to approve them all. I think BlackRock would list any asset because they're just going to rake in fees. So that's my opinion. But I'm curious. I think you guys may have a way more political view on this one. I think a lot of people think it was strictly the Biden administration that 180'd. What do you guys think about a spot Ether ETF?
Well, I've been thinking about this all week, and I actually want to kick it off with a dumb question. What is Ethereum? Is it a security? Is it a commodity? What is it? Like, what is it? Exactly. Your guess. No, yeah, your guess is as good as mine.
I defer to the person who was sitting next to Vitalik when he was thinking up the idea.
Oh, Cookie, you got to tell that story. Do you mind?
No, I don't mind. That was kind of continues from some of the old stories we were talking about last week. In March of 2014, I went to the Texas Bitcoin conference, which was, looking back, there were a lot of OGs there. It was pretty cool. I went to this brunch luncheon thing that was raising money for Sean's Outpost. Remember that charity?
Mm-hmm.
That took Bitcoin. And at the table, I was sitting next to Andreas Antonopoulos. On the other side of him was Vitalik Buterin. Then there was Rasa from Mycelium. There was Jason. What was his name? Sean King. From Sean's, I can't remember what his name was. Jason King. Jason King and Sean's Outpost.
Right.
Anyway, and Ethereum did not exist yet, and I was new to all these decentralized protocols. So to me, Ethereum just seemed like a neutral, interesting project. A lot of people were doing interesting things that weren't necessarily on Bitcoin. I didn't know the backstory on. I guess later I heard that Vitalik was a little butthurt that he couldn't contribute to Bitcoin Core or something, and or I don't know, whatever, however, whatever the genesis of what Ethereum. But, Vitalik started Bitcoin Magazine. Vitalik was kind of very, very active in Bitcoin for early on at the ages of 17, 18, 19 and stuff. Anyway, when I met him, he was 19, and I just remember Andreas, it was the first time I'm sitting there while Andreas is meeting Vitalik. I think they'd met once in Argentina, but not really talked. And Andreas it sounded like he was offering to, kind of review the Ethereum project. He was interested in it. I was interested in it too. I didn't know, nobody thought it was going to be a competitor to Bitcoin. No, it didn't exist yet. It was a white paper kind of thing. And, but I remember sitting, Andreas walked away, and, Vitalik is exactly your age, Jack. So to me, it's, I had a bunch of teenagers at home. It was easy to talk to a teenager, but he was difficult to talk to, because I remember asking him, like, well, how long is it going to take? What's the rollout plan for Ethereum, and how are you going to fund it? And it was at that conference that he actually stood up and talked about Ethereum. You'll see people posting clips recently about that, how they were going to fund it, the pre-mine, all that kind of stuff. They didn't call it pre-mine at the time. So Ethereum at the time, we were just trying to rack our brains. Well, how did he present it? Was it the World Computer Turing Complete Developers Toolkit? He didn't call it that. It was a decentralized platform for smart contracts. That's basically what it was, which didn't sound so controversial or weird or a competitor to Bitcoin, or no one at that point in 2014 was saying, oh, there's going to be a flippening and ETH is going to flip Bitcoin. No one ever talked about it in the beginning as hard money, as money at all. That came later. And I would love to talk to somebody someday who can explain how that reframing happened. Because to me, it's not hard money. It's not something that, I don't even know what these people are proposing the ETH ETFs or are going to be issuing them, what they think Ether is. What do they think it is? Do you guys have any sense? I'm just repeating Dylan's question.
Well, my point in asking that
I don't really
question,
know what that means.
my point in asking that question is because for this group, it would take us all of about 2 seconds. What's Bitcoin? Bitcoin's a commodity. There's always been ETFs around commodity. There's wheat ETFs, corn ETFs.
I don't like calling Bitcoin commodity. Bitcoin's money. Commodities are bad money.
But from a regulatory standpoint, like that's the thing that I don't understand is what did they make an ETF for? Like
I don't know.
At my desk as a rubber duck and some zins, like.
But I'm lesser
rubber duck ETF. Like, what the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah, but clearly Washington D.C. doesn't matter. So I don't really care about the regulatory. Why do you care?
Because I just don't understand what is there an ETF around? What is
there to ever understand? Do you expect to ever understand what they're doing over in D.C.?
I would hope someone would have an answer to that question.
I wouldn't hold your breath.
No, I mean, obviously the issuers have an idea of what they think Ether is because they have to sell it they have to sell it. But how are they going to explain it? That's what I want to know with the marketing material from BlackRock and all the other issuers who suddenly got approved that, and by the way, the ETFs aren't trading yet. The next stage has to happen, the S1s or whatever they're called, has to happen. But yeah, I'd like to know how all these issuers are going to define Ether for their clients. And that'll tell you a lot.
Programmable money, right? Smart contract.
They might say programmable money, but it's not. It's so funny. All of the shit coinery. We had shit coins back in 2013, 2014, before there was Ether. But since there was Ethereum, then we had the ICO craze and
Ethereum is the mother assholes from which shitcoins spring. Seyfedina Moose.
Thank you, Seyfedina.
Yeah, it is the mother asshole. Let me do a quick history for those who weren't around, if I may. Ethereum was it was very weirdly marketed as well, by the way. You guys remember that? Vitalik was always kind of the poster child, but he wasn't the muscle behind it. There was Joseph Lubin. There was a ton of people behind this thing, and they did make it like the better version of Bitcoin. It was, from my memory, Cookie, it was always marketed that way. Vitalik wanted to make some changes to, I think it was Bitcoin script. He wanted like these Turing complete type smart contracts, I believe, on Bitcoin. And the Bitcoin community was like, well, those are wildly insecure. They leave a lot of vulnerability and risk for something that doesn't really have a ton of upside. I don't think we're all here to decentralize dentistry or decentralized supply chain. Bitcoin is disrupting central banks. Bitcoin is money. Bitcoin is this fixed monetary asset and supply. And we don't need to introduce a Turing complete smart contract. You don't want that surface area of risk. Bitcoin is designed as if we're designing like airplanes or aerospace engine. It's very high quality, risk averse engineering. And so everyone kind of told Vitalik, we appreciate the idea, but at least at this moment is far too risky. Vitalik then creates his own coin. Now, the problem that I think all Bitcoiners had with it is you can create distributed networks all you want. That's totally fine. Like Nostr. Nostr is a distributed network. It's as soon as you create your own token or your own money, that's when everyone has the right to question you, because as soon as you start to be your own central bank and print your own currency for yourself and manipulate it and set its own price, that's when it's like, well, what's actually going on here? Because Bitcoin's money. And if you want to create, Nostr doesn't have a token, right? Nostr just uses Bitcoin, but it's a distributed network. So they pre-mined 70% of it, gave it to themselves. Cookie, when they sold, you were part of the pre-mine. When they sold it to you, they set the price. I think people don't appreciate that too. Pre-sale Ether wasn't a free market. They told you. So that's the part where it's like, is it a security? Well, that's a security. I mean, that is a security. I don't know if the SEC is going to care or not, but they went to people and said, hey, by the way, we printed a bunch of Ethereum. It's worth this amount of BTC and we are willing to sell it to you. So you couldn't go trade it. You couldn't go to an auction. It was flat out. These guys created a financial instrument and were selling it at a fixed rate that they came up with. There would be emails, or on the website, it would say, P.S. this is, in all caps, not a security. I have screenshots still that I tweet sometimes. But that is the story of Ethereum. And they were very bullish on this smart contract thing, and that Bitcoiners were going to regret not supporting Vitalik's vision in having this really fancy smart contract platform. Fast forward a few years later, there was something called the DAO hack. There's a ton of money raised in one of these fancy smart contracts Vitalik came up with, and it lost hundreds of millions of dollars. So basically, the whole point of Ethereum was in this, it was called Slockit. You guys remember that?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Stephen Toole, something, was that his name?
Yes. Wow.
So Ethereum was the Internet of Things, the decentralized computer, and there was this big giant fundraise that was going to be a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, which is going to take in a bunch of capital and then somehow be smart enough to allocate it to different projects. And it was going to be a distributed, decentralized organization that was fully autonomous and programmed on Ethereum. It raised hundreds of millions of dollars, and then it got hacked. And hacked, not maliciously, hacked meaning the reason that Bitcoin didn't want this level of programmability is because it's extremely dangerous with little to no upside. And so someone told the smart contract to send all the money to himself. And so all the hundreds of millions of dollars that was raised in this project went poof and into one guy's address. Now, this was the moment where Ethereum, to me, very quickly became not money at all. Because at the time, it was code is law. Because everyone was like, how are these things going to be regulated? How are these smart contracts, if they're going to be decentralized autonomous legal firms, decentralized autonomous public transportation? It's like, what is the law? Who's writing the rules? And it was, no, code is law. Code is law. Things are fixed. Same rhetoric you hear from Bitcoiners was from Ethereum people, is that we can't change anything. Like, this is, the Internet of Things is fixated in the code we write. As soon as this guy stole hundreds of millions of dollars, Vitalik started pinging all the exchanges, everyone, and said, pause the network, reverse everything. We're going in, we're changing how the money works. We're changing what transactions are valid. We're changing the history of what happened because we are prioritizing developers and we're prioritizing the fact that we don't want to be known as a risky, vulnerable, insecure developer platform. And
sounds like a good feature. I think Bitcoin should roll the chain back and reverse the transaction where I spent 6 Bitcoin for a bicycle.
of
I mean,
course,
it makes sense to me.
of course. And so
I'll pay that guy 50 grand for that bike, but let's unwind that. That was a bad transaction.
well, it was also, so at the time, it was very bad for Ethereum. Everyone was like, well, this thing doesn't seem, it seems like the Bitcoin developers were kind of right. What's the point of decentralizing organizations? Like, do we need Google? Like, what this is all seems a little bit overly complicated. Doesn't make a lot of sense. And that would have invalidated their 70% pre-mine and their token, right? Again, what's the point of the token? If you guys want to transmit value over the internet, why don't you use Bitcoin? The moment that you create your own money out of thin air and then try and sell it to people is when we all will question you. But they stopped the bleeding. They reversed everything. And by the way, the old Ethereum is still alive for those that haven't been around for a long time. You can look it up. It's called Ethereum Classic. So the blockchain that Vitalik changed is up there, and you can go look at it. But Ethereum has a leader. Ethereum has a founder. Ethereum has a leadership team. Ethereum has a foundation. Ethereum has a marketing budget. And that team went to this new version of Ethereum. And ever since that happened, you're now not money anymore. Because as soon as you start changing the rules and your token is political, you're more like Strike or Google or NVIDIA than you are Bitcoin or steel or corn or wheat or gold, right? I mean, can you, like, the rules of steel can't change. I'm sitting up on a very high floor in my building right now. If the rules of steel changed, the building would collapse and I'd die right now. The reason we build on steel is because steel the chemicals that make up steel can't change. There's no founder that could say, oh shit, I fucked up. Let me roll back steel. And every building in Chicago then collapses. So since that moment, it's been, in my opinion, like a startup. They iterate through narratives, they iterate through ideas, they try shit that fails. They tried ICOs, failed. They tried NFTs, failed. They try to justify, they try and find product market fit. So they look like a startup. And so to me, Ethereum has always been a startup that's trying to find product market fit, but they conflate with Bitcoin. They like to ride Bitcoin's coattails because you monetize that startup by selling a token. And that's the history, in my opinion. And we've seen this happen all the time. Like another version of the DAO hack is changing from proof of work to proof of stake. So Ethereum was proof of work. At one point, Larry Fink and all the politicians in DC didn't like the energy consumption. And so Ethereum literally decimated an entire industry. If you were a Ethereum proof of work miner, one day you woke up and your job, your company, your industry was gone, eviscerated. And they switched to proof of stake to appease politicians and the outside world's opinion of energy consumption. Fast forward to today, Larry Fink doesn't mind Bitcoin's energy consumption. In fact, we now understand that it's incentivizing clean energy use and abundant energy use, and it's a phenomenal thing. But at the time, that was another very political decision where the rules absolutely changed. It'd be, again, like rolling back steel or changing the rules of gold. Very much not a commodity, very much not a hard metal, very much not a hard money at all. So that's my version of history. And for that reason, I think Ethereum is more like a startup. It's more like a company. I don't know how, like, it should trade like NVIDIA. But then again, it's like, well, what are Ethereum's cash flows? This is everything I said on Bloomberg. What's their cash flows? How am I supposed to value, like, if Ethereum token is like the stock of a company, you know, what are the cash flows, I guess? Like, how do I value the stock of Ethereum?
How many are there?
How many other? But the goal is, I mean, the goal, smart contracts is, right, a dream come true end game. If I can program my money and, you know, specifically for what uses I can allow. I mean, from soup to nuts, I can run my company so much better. I don't have to worry about the accounting department and the petty cash drawer and everything. That money is programmed to do only things that I want my company doing. It's just, you guys just think it's more efficiently done on layer 2, but there wasn't a layer 2. So I mean, when Ethereum was first proposed, I think everyone was kind of a thumbs up, right? Because Bitcoin cannot or could not. I don't remember when we started conceiving of Bitcoin doing the type of what if conditional smart contract stuff that Ethereum was designed to do, right?
No. I will violently disagree with that. Bitcoin's always had smart contracts. A multi-sig is a smart contract. It's like, if 2 of 3 sign, let the coin spend. If not, don't. Lightning Network is built on smart contracts. I mean, Bitcoin's had smart contracts and a scripting language this whole time. It's this marketing spin that like Bitcoin can't support autonomous decentralized organizations. And it's like, when you say that to a bunch of people that aren't engineers and don't know how to actually evaluate your claim, yeah, it sounds sexy, it sounds cool. But I mean, it's been a decade. How many Ethereum smart contracts do you use in your everyday life? I use a lot of Bitcoin smart contracts. I use multi-sig. I use Lightning. How many Ethereum ones do I use? They didn't decentralize Twitter. They didn't decentralize my doctor's office. They didn't decentralize how Strike fundraises money. We're still sitting here to this day. The only thing they've decentralized is speculating on its token. So it's been a decade, and I don't think we've made any progress. I'm not part of it, but they've made any progress. What's it now? So now it's harder money because they changed the rules to have like a better stock to flow ratio than Bitcoin. The fuck out of here. I think these claims are so preposterous, but they're made to people that can't properly evaluate them. That's why I say it's an arbitrage on the trend. Is you have a trend. I think it's a regulatory arbitrage and an information arbitrage. Is the regulatory arbitrage is you get to be a less legally accountable central bank. Being a central banker is a phenomenal business to be in, but it's illegal, right? It's not allowed unless you have a regulatory arbitrage. You get to be your own version of Jerome Powell. That's what the Ethereum Foundation and these guys are. And then informational arbitrage is you are selling a thesis and preposterous, ambitious claims to people that can't evaluate them. But these people are interested in the trend because of the rapid debasement we've all been living through. So you have this Bitcoin thing that's creating a trend of an independent financial system. You get to pitch a bunch of non-technical people a load of horse shit, and you get the regulatory arbitrage that you're somehow legally allowed to be a central banker. Arbitrage on the trend. They're just monetizing this trend, in my opinion. I don't know anyone that uses Ethereum smart contracting platforms that's decentralized to anything. I literally don't know anybody. Seriously, do you? What has Ethereum decentralized for you?
Well, we have probably over our brief and disappointing career in the cannabis business probably sold more weed for ETH than we have. Well, there's a decent weed, or there's decent ETH club, and they who supports our store, right? We've probably sold a couple of Ether worth of.
I think we did. Yeah. You know, I was thinking this week.
There's a use case.
Do you think there are more Ether users than users? What would they be? Holders? I don't know. Then they're not, whatever, than Bitcoiners. And the reason I asked that is I almost felt like there was so much hype about the Bitcoin ETFs being approved. But once something happened last Monday night where things pivoted and we suddenly found out that we were going to suddenly get this ETH ETFs, which of course I wasn't paying attention because I don't care that much. I think the regulatory stuff is super interesting. I just didn't care that it was happening to either. I was shocked, at least my Twitter feed, at the unbelievable, crazy excitement Oh my God, anyway, my point is that, back in the day when people would, and I'm thinking actually 2017, when I would like hide Bitcoin to my friends, that was the year of the ICO, Ether was pumping, the ICOs were hot. And friends of mine would always say, well, I went into Coinbase and Bitcoin's too expensive, but that ETH wasn't too expensive, that Ethereum or whatever it is. And that's why you have that t-shirt that says Ethereum, but it's spelled IUM at the end, because no one really knew what it was. But it's like, oh, well, that Ripple's really cheap. I'll get some of that Ripple stuff, the XRP, or I'll get some of that ETH. So a lot of people bought Ethereum only because, if it was retail, only because it was cheaper than Bitcoin. And a little unit bias, a little bit more easily.
And I'm not even like, people accuse me of hating as if I, like, stop hate, don't hate the play, I hate the game. Like, I'm not hating, I'm just being honest. So I pulled up someone after I went on Bloomberg, someone who's pro Ethereum went on, I saw the clip, and they were like, explain the Ethereum ETF for us. Why would someone buy the Ethereum ETF? What is it? What is it? How do I value it? Why would someone want it in their portfolio? And this person goes, well, if Bitcoin is the digital gold, Ethereum is digital oil.
Yeah, I heard that.
But this is the type of stuff that's been going on for 10 years. That statement means nothing. What the fuck does that mean?
Well,
but the problem, what, say again?
Or is it just a lubricant oil? I think it fuels.
Fuels what?
I mean, there's gas fees on it when
Gas
you use
fees.
the Ethereum network. I mean, remember when everybody was building on Ethereum and then it got too expensive to use?
Right.
Because gas fees were so high. And so if that's the oil, okay.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
But this is the thing, is that like for 10 years, people say things that don't actually make any sense, but they sound amazing. So, by the way, oil is a commodity. Oil doesn't have a founder. Oil's rules can't change. Oil is, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's the whole thing has been so ridiculous this whole time. Like, you walk in, like Ethereum people would come to our Chicago meetups back in the day sometimes, like, and I'm paraphrasing, but it always sounded this way. Like, if Bitcoin is the sun, Ethereum is the sky. And it's like, you guys aren't saying anything of substance. You never have either. Like, it's always just ways to sell the token.
So Ethereum is an ETF. It's approved for ETF, right? So so it is a commodity, that means? Or,
well, it's not a security.
It's not a security. Is another thing. Can we talk about what a genius Howie is? I don't know what his first name is. I don't know what office he held, but that guy in 1940 is writing rules for shit. We didn't even have the internet, much less did we have investment contracts on the internet. And this guy is writing applicable rules in 1940.
That all of the
the Howey test. Well, let's apply the Howey. Well, of course, we'll cede to the Howey test.
Well,
why not?
This is what Gary says and Elizabeth Warren say, is that the rules are clear. They've been clear for over 100 years.
What a freaking genius!
But so you guys also know there was the Hinman emails, which at the SEC several years ago, where the argument was that something can become a product like this can become, or an digital asset like this can be sufficiently decentralized to no longer need what the SEC now calls their ecosystem or whatever, can exist apart from its ecosystem and traded thus as a fully decentralized, like Bitcoin, therefore not a security.
But it shifts, right?
It shifts. It's a spectrum of decentralization.
Kind of like a Schrodinger's thing, right? It depends how many of people are thinking it's a security before we class it, or how many are using it, or I can't remember. But I know it's a shifting standard for
it's fluid.
I gave up on the whole
Mr. Howie.
I gave up on the security, not a security. I gave up on that. But I'm just, as we wrap up this topic, I mean, we were all there. We were there. Like Vitalik sold you, Brooke,
He
pre-sale
didn't
ETH.
sell me anything. I mean, he wasn't selling. He wasn't there. He was there to present his idea. I just
Well, you bought pre-sale ETH.
yeah, but not from that conference. I mean, it was a year later that it was offered for sale. So it was a long project. That's how they bootstrapped the project, is by selling one Bitcoin got you 2,000 ETH. And I know so many people, I know several people who are unbelievably rich because they put like, I don't know, 10, 100 Bitcoin in and got so much ETH. Anyway,
And you put
I'm not telling.
0.8.
Okay.
Less than
All
a
right,
Bitcoin.
okay,
That's that's how much of an ETH fanatic
Okay,
the Bitcoin
just
mom
a little
was.
digression. Just because Mr. Master Trader loves to say that I'm the best trader he's ever known, and I have a PhD in English, guys. So no, finance, macro, not my thing. Tech, not my thing. Maybe it is now, but anyway, yeah. So I didn't have enough nerve to put a full Bitcoin into the pre-sale, so I put 0.8.
And I had no idea what you was talking about, or you probably would have
I
bought
didn't tell you.
5.
I didn't
right?
tell
No,
you
I
till
would have.
later.
I would have enthused if I'd understand it. I didn't. I had no idea what you guys were talking about. What ether is, and the guy, like you said, he's 19 years old and talks seemingly English, but like he's hard to understand.
So we all give Vitalik the benefit of the doubt that he's
Yeah.
a genius, but
No, you bought 0.8, but yeah, if that had been a 10 lot, I would have been that at 0.8. It was the best trade I've ever seen.
Yeah, but I guess
well, that's same with Bitcoin. Plug in a PC in your college dorm, and you are now a better trader than I've ever seen. Right, as long as you did it in 2011. No, it was there's a lot of right place, right time to all of this stuff. But no, that was excellent.
thank you.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the point I was going to make is I still don't know what it is. We were all there. Yeah, we were all there, and I still don't know what it's like achieved. I don't know. All these fancy smart contracts that Vitalik really wanted Bitcoin to have. I don't know what it, because clearly NFTs, like people are putting NFTs on Bitcoin now. So I don't get it. I don't care about whether it's a security or not. I just still don't understand it. And like I said on Bloomberg, I think the world has a ways to go in understanding and valuing this thing. I think it's ridden the coattails of Bitcoin, and it's just kind of been like this thing that has a lot of hype and a lot of developer upside that no one has ever been able to answer the question, what is it? Who uses it? Why? No one ever. They'd be like, oh no, I don't know. You should follow this guy on Twitter. I own some though. Like, okay, well,
I'll tell you another, right. The first 9 problems, right. The pre-mine, the distribution, model, and how many of them there are and everything. But also another thing is that it is one more example of why Satoshi kept his name out of it, right? Because Vitalik didn't, so we know who he is. So, right, that's got to.
Do you guys remember that there was a rumor about Vitalik being in a fatal car accident back a long time ago, 2015, and or 2016, sorry, and the price crashed.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Someone put out a credible rumor that Vitalik was potentially dead, and Ethereum crashed 50% immediately or something. It's literally a stock of a company. Like, what are we talking about? It's the equivalent of if Elon was going to die. It's the stock of a business.
Satoshi owns 1 million Bitcoin also. But he mined those. There's no pre-mined, and also, like I said, Satoshi kind of gets cultish, but keeping your name out of it had to be. If I got my name on it, I'm taking my Nobel Prize, right? I've put my family's name on really one of those remarkable financial innovations, but he kept his name off of it. And I think as you see all these other projects, among the problems Ethereum's running into is, right, we know who Vitalik is, we know how much he, and I just think that, right, Satoshi kind of gets culty. Satoshi love kind of gets culty, but in this one, that was clearly the right call to stay pseudonymous and let the software speak for itself, as opposed to having a leader which, as you say, if there's a rumor that he quit or was killed, that's manifest damage to your project.
Or what about the DAO hack? If there's a leader and you're just going to follow him, like if there was no leader to the thing, who knows? Maybe everyone was like, code is law. You guys got to write more secure smart contracts. But the whole foundation and leadership team of the thing reversed everything and said, pretend that didn't exist. We're going this way. It's just whatever. It runs like a business. We'll see where it goes, though, I guess. What a world we live in.
So
why don't we
next?
Yeah.
Solana up next.
I think you're going to get, like I said, you're going to get as many ETFs as possible. They're going to list them all. Why not?
I'm already hearing Solana. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a ton of them on all of these.
Yeah, I mean, not the rules. Nothing matters anymore. Yeah, I mean, I'll create an altcoin. If someone your neighbor creates an altcoin, get it listed. Why not? See, I mean, like I said, I think banks are just making money in a world where it's been difficult for them. They're all insolvent and getting crushed. They're collecting good fees on this. We'll see what the actual inflows are. We'll see if, institutional capital is really going to buy $15 billion worth of Ethereum, but I don't know. Speaking of kind of, sort of, what about Trump? I mean, we've been talking about Trump on this podcast for a long time, and that he is probably going to be, Dad, I wouldn't even say you were bullish on Trump being pro crypto. You're just Trump being pro finance because of his approach to the IRS, his approach to, Biden was threatening capital formation, and you were expecting Trump to be a lot more favorable to the financial sector as a whole. And then now fast forward a bit, not only were you right, but Trump is like pro Bitcoin. He's talking about free and Ross. What's your guys' take on the latest Trump stuff over the last week?
Take what we can get. Yes. The fact that, right, or maybe Vivek had something to do with this, or somebody got through to him, or maybe there are enough people along to reach a critical mass so that we can get a politician to actually understand, the industry. But however it happened, but yeah, I'm definitely, if I'm a single issue voter, that's good enough for me. I think if you look at one side, and I know everybody hates paying taxes, but if you have ever tried to run a small business when you're under IRS audit, you can't do it. You don't have the horses for it. If the IRS shows up at a Fortune 500 company, I'm sure they send them right to offsite and with a room full of accountants or something. But you're running your small business. Like I said, you guys get audited. You are not going to, win Europe and all that stuff. That's good. That ties you down badly. And if he's got one party that thinks the answer to this government's fiscal woes is to double the IRS, and the other party, Donald, who has battled tax authorities. I mean, he's from Manhattan real estate developer. He obviously hates taxes. Yeah, it's the best you can do. We would have loved to have, a Vivek on, or even a Kennedy or somebody that I felt understood our industry a little bit better. But like I said, if my Venn diagram overlaps one fraction with the IRS, should not be given the amount of power. You should not legislate or really govern a new industry's growth through tax, through your tax authority. Then yes, I'm a Trump. I would vote for Trump for that single issue alone.
We don't agree politically on this, and that's okay. We grew up with Trump. I mean, we knew Trump in the 80s. He's always been a buffoon, a fool, absolute, he's a walking meme. And I've just been in shock that he won the presidency. And I mean, at this point, one of the things that's always amazed me about being in Bitcoin is that I don't know if you know that phrase, makes strange bedfellows. It's I don't know where. I assume the source of that is people would be traveling across country, didn't have to stay in the same inn and be in the same bed with strangers and that kind of thing. But so, Bitcoin makes strange bedfellows. I wouldn't vote for Trump to save my life because I have daughters and I care about their reproductive rights, and I think he's a neo-fascist, and I think he has already made that clear that he plans to be a dictator from day one. He's going to create concentration camps. He's going to deport 11 million people, including people I love who are from other countries. And so, it's like, yet I also want a leader who will allow me to preserve my wealth and not go after self-custody and not stick the IRS on us or anybody. And so I'm really, really torn. I mean, but a president is only as effective as the people who advise him or her. So in this case, if we've got Vivek, this is like, I'm hoping, I mean, it was 2-Bit Idiot, shout out 2-Bit Idiot, maybe David Bailey, recently, getting in there and making connections with Trump's staff and getting in there to get Trump to say the words that he said last night. By the way, at that conference, at the Libertarian conference he was talking at, Libertarians hate Trump and they were booing him. But and so all the mainstream media has been covering this, the left side, MSNBC and CNN, are covering about what a fool he made of himself, Trump, at this Libertarian convention because they hate him and all this stuff. And all of the footage they're showing of them booing has these signs that say "Free Ross, Free Ross, Free Ross," which was the coolest thing. So that's like all over mainstream media all morning today. And I think that's pretty awesome. We'll get to that, I'm sure.
Hey, what? Yeah. No, I do. It was good to see all the Free Ross. Hope that gets some momentum again.
I mean, from my perspective, right, I think both Biden and Trump are, I like Jack's term, Muppets. They are. They placate to what's popular. Joe Biden and that administration, we know what their intentions were and we know what they were capable of. They tried to threaten the livelihood of individuals, of entrepreneurs, of investors, of an entire budding economy, to be quite honest, of emerging technology that we think, all of us on this call think is net beneficial for humanity. And you had someone who not only stood defiantly in the face of it, he attempted to criminalize it in many different ways. And look, Trump has gotten on stage and said a bunch of shit before, right? We're going to build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it. Well, we built part of a wall and we paid the entire thing, right? And then he left. So it's that classic, the devil you do know, might be better than the devil that you don't. In this case, the devil that I did know was awful. So I'm ready to meet the one that I don't.
What do you guys think about the theory that
I agree, Dylan? Kind of.
Trump doesn't really want to govern, anyways. He just doesn't like losing, right? I mean, but he doesn't really want to dig into 10-12 hour days of running government. So what about the theory that he just hates going out a loser? He's going to win, hit the golf course, and basically hand shit over to Vivek.
Right. What if we get a Vivek?
What if we get? I mean, that's kind of a dream
secretary.
Scenario, right?
A pro-Bitcoiner as Treasury Secretary is a dream can come true for this promising technology.
I know you guys are worried about abortion rights or building walls or stuff, but I mean, like I said, that takes a lot of hard work and consensus building and stuff. And Trump doesn't really want to govern. I'm just throwing that theory out there. I've heard that. I've heard that a vote for Trump is kind of your best chance of if you're more libertarian, because he doesn't really want to govern anyways. And hopefully he'll instead of leaving Elizabeth Warren in charge, right, of the banking industry or the finance industry, he would leave someone like Vivek. And then go play golf, and then I mean that's my dream. That's your best outcome.
Yeah, but then, I mean, I think that makes Cookie's point even stronger, because I was actually alive when we had a president like that. His name was George W. Bush, right? Essentially,
Reagan's second term, the lame duck second term doesn't have to be. It's hard to throw your elbows around when you're lame duck and age and all those. I thought Reagan's second term, Bush's second term, right? They do tend to kind of the last couple of years is pretty lame duck of a second term. You got no reason to fear the guy anymore, right?
Yeah, it's just Cheney actually ended up running that office, got us in the war, retired as an oil executive, made $300 million because he had concentrated interest in the area that he discovered weapons of mass destruction in. And then you had this little Texas boy who was like actually placating as president. So anyway, if Trump gets elected and doesn't want to govern, then great, but all eyes on who's actually, making decisions in that place. And hopefully that, those people are as pro crypto as the orange man claims himself to be. Orange man, orange coin. I don't know. I see it.
I mean, are we putting Ryan Selkis in this next administration?
Oh, sure, he is. There's no doubt, Ryan, but too many idiots going to be in this administration. But can I just say as a sidelight to this, what the hell was the Biden administration thinking all of this time? But I did read something yesterday. It was from a regulator about, oh gosh, anyway, context gone, but which was basically they all just thought crypto would just go away, that we would just shut up. If they just made it really hard, these pesky kids in the crypto industry would just shut up and go away. And we didn't. And anyway, if Biden doesn't come out tomorrow, and it'll be before this show is published or posted, sorry, and says, I've pivoted, he's either going to tell Gary Gensler to stand down, maybe even tell Gary Gensler, we're going to replace you, which I don't think he's going to do right away. I don't know. Everything he's done on his whole crypto stance has proved to be incredibly unpopular. He discounted 50 million Americans who have crypto. He discounted the fact that this idea has gone viral across the world. It's tentacles of Bitcoin and network effects. Tentacles are in every country all over the world. It was so short-sighted and so all in service of a CBDC, all in service to the banking cartels, I suppose. But now the banking cartels could actually benefit from some of these digital assets. So even they don't want this, constant Wells notices and enforcement actions by the SEC. I don't know what the Biden was thinking, farming this out to Elizabeth Warren, but boy, did that backfire. And if they don't come out this week with more reversals like they did last week, they're for sure going to lose. I mean, they're just going to lose this election.
Right. I know. I have a feeling this is going to be dated another couple of days, this discussion, right? Because they need a response, right?
I would think so. Yeah.
I mean, that narrative is gone, guys. Like, you can't come out and say, hey, hand up. Sorry, I threatened 50 million individuals' livelihood at the behest of government through people in jail. But, that one was on me. Sorry, I learned my lesson because Trump now is in favor of it. Sorry, guys, learned my lesson there. Won't happen again. That's a promise. I mean, first of all, the guy can't even talk. Second of all, I wouldn't believe a word of what he had to say if he, even if he did. So I think that narrative's too far gone, at least for someone like me. I've already seen what you've done, so I don't care what you have to say.
Why not?
Yeah.
Look, if I'm a politician, you look for things where I can get a plus out of this without the minus. Like if I, build the wall, I'm going to please border towns, but upset, immigrants or something. I think they're just the easy. I don't see any downside to letting Ross Ulbricht out of prison. I mean, he's served.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's just a layup. Why not? If I'm a politician, you're pandering. Yeah, you will get a certain amount, and it shows just Joe Biden's been a father. He's been a parent. His own children have had struggles. They've made mistakes, but he still loves them, and that's the spirit I want to show. And yeah, Ross Ulbricht never should have, committed crimes, but 11 years, enough's enough. I mean, that's a layup.
I'll tell you just a funny irony. I remember I followed the trial of Ross very, very closely, and it was completely unfair from start to finish in every way. But I remember reading somewhere that Chuck Schumer said to the judge, make an example of this guy. Make an example, call him a drug kingpin, whatever you need to do so we can shut this shit down, shut this Silk Road stuff, this dark market stuff, shut it down. I've never almost forgiven him for that. because the fact that Judge Forrester gave him 2 life sentences plus 40 years, tenuously based on the fact that there was murder for hire that people still think was actually happened, which it didn't. No one was hired. There were no actual hits put on. It was manipulation by government agents. It was all entrapment for Ross. Sorry. I think, where was it going with that? Oh, now Chuck Schumer voted with the bipartisan repealing of Sub 121 last week in the Senate. So now he went against Warren and pro crypto side, which is just amazing to me. How he pivoted, how the Biden administration is now rescheduling marijuana, putting it Schedule 3, telling people with marijuana, people who are in jail for marijuana, that they can get out because there's no reason anybody should be in jail for possession of marijuana. And Ross is still rotting in jail, and you guys made an example of him. It's time. That's enough of this bullshit. Let him out.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the sneaky silver lining in this is got to be not only him but his mother, right? I mean, to see the conversation reverse itself to the point where people are demanding from incumbent presidents to, free this man, and they're talking about it. I mean, I'm just happy the conversation's back alive, because it was really, these past 2-3 years, it was, I'm sure, incredibly easy for her to lose hope in the middle of everyone being, prosecuted, villainized the same way her son was. And to see a reversal of that narrative in the general conversation outside of, us and people like us, it's got to just be a great feeling for her.
I have to interject with the family story side of things. Back to that Texas Bitcoin conference in 2014, sitting at that table next to Andreas and these, at that time, luminaries in the Bitcoin industry. This woman stood up at another table and said, "I'd like to make an announcement." She was very quiet, very shy. She said, "Hi, I'm Lynn Ulbricht, and you guys don't know me, but my son is in jail." I mean, the trial hadn't happened yet. So she decided, she knew nothing. I don't think she knew anything about Bitcoin. I'm not sure she thought that Ross was actually guilty. And here, a few months after he gets arrested, she comes to the Bitcoin community and reaches out to us, and ended up embracing the Bitcoin community, and we did her. And something really heartwarming she said to me when I talked to her a couple of years ago is that she just loves Jack. And Jack, I can't remember where you met her. And she just said, "I just know Ross and Jack would be friends." And just makes me want to cry, every time I think about that. And the thought of Ross getting out, and can you imagine how much we will embrace him and how much we will love him, and we will raise money for whatever he needs and that family needs. It would be the most amazing thing.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to spend some time with Lynn at Bitcoin 2022 conference, and she's very sweet. Yeah, I mean, I've said my piece on Ross. I think Ross is a hero, and a lot of this industry, I'm not sure we would be where we are. I mean, it's hard to make statements like that, but I think Ross was super important to what Bitcoin is today. And we all are in debt to Ross, and so he should be free. And I don't know, the world, I owe Ross a lot. I know, I can say that for a fact. I just don't think Bitcoin would be where it is without his contributions.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay. Anything else on Trump and Ross? Any bold predictions? I still think the price needs to react to all that's happening. I don't know. I love this stuff. I come out and I make claims like, "Oh, I think Bitcoin's going to 250 to $1 million," and everyone's like, "That's hopium nonsense. You sound like a crazy, cooped up person that's taking drugs." But I've lived through many of these bull runs, and you'd be surprised what happens. And all of a sudden you wake up and the president of the United States might be buying Bitcoin for treasury to get elected. And then $1 million is low. So I don't know. It's all kind of going according to plan. In my opinion, I think the price is going to have to start reacting. And I wouldn't be surprised if we keep egging Trump on. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a promise to buy some for the country.
You think if Biden gets elected short term, bad for Bitcoin's price?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, terrible. And
I think
by the way, priced in, and you talk about being priced in, this Trump stuff wasn't priced in. No way. This pivot, this political stuff, not priced in at all. In
No.
fact, I'm surprised the price hasn't really budged. We got our little guy up here. We decided to move him so he could be our little roller coaster guy up here. He will move if the price goes up or down.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of this stuff is priced in. And let's not forget, I mean, the US opened a swap line with Japan, and the fact that there's so much debasement coming I don't think that's priced in either. So I think you're going to get, like Dad says, a dollar bill. I think you're going to get a continuously weaker dollar, a lot stronger assets. And then if the United States president is a buyer and a backer of Bitcoin, sky's the limit.
That's what I'd do. I certainly wouldn't. Well, we had a couple quarter point interest rate hikes, and we tripped 2 West Coast banks. That's enough for me. In an election year, there's too much insolvency, and there's too much, domino risk to to tightening monetary conditions right now. I'm afraid y'all are going to have to spend 7 or 8 or 9% more at the grocery store is a preferable outcome in an election year to, where do I cast my vote? Well, walk past that bank line. Can you see the Bank of America? It's shuttered. Okay, there, and then go down to your junior high and vote. Yeah, that's a bad look. So yes, I would criticize your monetary authorities as much as you want, but I'm not sure I wouldn't do the same thing. I think so I think we're going to have to inflate a little bit to at least get through this year. And in the hard asset menu, yeah, I like gold, I like real estate, but I really, Bitcoin, as you know, just has a stronger scarcity argument than either of those.
Yep. Okay. Well, how do we want to wrap this one up, Dill? Do we have any questions from the audience?
Yeah, we got a couple. We're going to kick it off with Bitcoin Seal. Thanks for the question, Bitcoin Seal. He asked, hi, Jack Mallers. You mentioned you opted out of the fiat world by only using a credit card, then paying it off with Bitcoin each month. How can we do the same? Coming soon to the Strike app, I hope.
Yeah, we just launched instant withdrawals on Strike so that you can basically turn any Bitcoin balance you have on the app into money in your bank account. And so I use that. I spend on credit cards. I don't own any dollars. It's a great feature of the US banking system. I get to spend dollars without having to own them because they give me a free line of credit. So I get to spend the currency that only goes down without having to own it. And then I get to hoard the currency that only goes up. And it's easy. I get to self-sovereignly hold it. I don't pay any property taxes on it. It's pretty straightforward. I could put it on a hardware device. So that's what I do. And I use that feature. I mean, I just used it. My cleaning ladies came over here. I didn't have any dollars to go take out of the ATM. So I clicked a few buttons on Strike and that instantly put dollars in my bank account. And I went to the ATM, cleared it all out, and paid my cleaning ladies. So that's how I do it today. I mean, we want bill pay in the future, but that's how I do it.
I think I remember. Don't you remember? That was a point of discussion, like how do currencies, how is it going to look when currencies coexist? An inflationary currency and a deflationary currency are both, like you said, I can pay my bills with either. And I think Andreas said almost exactly that. Right. I think he drew the analogy to imagine like you're in a tourist town. You're pretty quickly gonna. I'll give discounts if people pay in dollars, right? But I'll pay my rent in the local currency, which is, devaluing, right? I'll take the stronger one, and even offer discounts to take the stronger one. I mean, just what you're doing. I'll spend the one that's devaluing. I'll save on the one. But I think I like the way he said. He predicted that it would look kind of like you're vacationing in a tourist town where people are flying in with yen and euros and and there's a local currency, how do you think they're going to spend? They're going to spend the one that's going down, right? Everybody's going to want and offer discounts to the one that's going up.
Yeah.
And that's really what you're doing, right?
But it's perfect. You know, it'd be different if they're like, in order to get a credit card, you have to own $1 million US. That's not the case. You don't have to own any US dollars to spend them. So I get to borrow and spend the shit. Yeah, I get to borrow and spend the shit currency, and I just hold the one that goes up on average like 100% year over year, which people are surprised by, but it'll go up like 600%, and then it'll go down 80% or whatever. But it nets out. It on average, Bitcoin around doubles every single year, which if I use Bitcoin I use Strike as my checking account basically. So 100% year over year is effectively saying that everything in my life gets half off every single year. So all my travel, groceries, housing, everything for me gets half off every single year because of the money I use. So Bitcoin checking account, my life gets cheaper. And then obviously if you use dollar checking account, everything gets a lot more expensive, right? That's inflation. So yeah, just borrow the weak currency, spend that. Shout out Chase. Thanks for giving me a 30-day revolving door of credit. No, I mean, credit cards are great. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to post collateral. You just sign up on the internet and they give you a free 30-day line of credit. And they give you points too, by the way. So Strike, we have to charge fees because the instant cash out costs us money, but we cap the fees at $150. You'll never pay more than that. So the way I treat it is it's like $150 monthly fee to Strike in order for me to live on Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's so performant and I get cash back on these credit cards. Basically my cash back pays for the fee I give to Strike.
The fees, yeah.
Yeah. So the cash back from my credit cards goes to Strike and then I just have a checking account that makes my life 50% off every year. That's Bitcoin checking account for me. It was awesome. It's great.
Sounds more like a saving account to me, but yeah. I love this next question. Stimmy's Nerdly 771 says, personally, I enjoy hearing the history and backstory of Bitcoin and your journey. As a huge IndyCar fan, and with the Indy 500 running this Memorial Day weekend, I'd love to hear how that process developed when Strike sponsored Renus VK's car and Ed Carpenter Racing turned out the most beautiful race car in history.
I just feel bad that I'm sick. I wish I had more energy to tell the story. Do you want to tell the story? You were there.
Me? No, you tell the story.
I just don't feel very well, man.
You can tell it, Dylan.
Oh.
I'll tell it, but yeah, you get some FaceTime, Dill. You were there.
Now, if people want to hear your perspective, I'll chime in with some ad libs, but go.
Let's first, can Dylan do the dance pivot that he does when he jumps out of his race car?
Does that
Doesn't
thing.
Renus do that thing where he spins around?
Yeah. Cool.
Hey,
I don't know if I have enough space at this desk to even try.
race car drivers are cool. They used to be, right? And when I was growing up, like Mary Andretti and all race cars. Horse races, car races, baseball, all-star break. It's just going to be 3 months till bear season, guys. I don't know how else to put it. And then it'll be bear season. Then the Bulls will start playing, and then we can start watching sports again. But yeah, race cars in the rain.
It's delayed, but it's gonna happen in about an hour. Jack, you helped design that car, right?
Yeah. I'll tell a story, but again, I just feel really bad. I do so much travel and stuff. So inevitably on a lot of these podcast episodes, I'm going to be a little under the weather. So I feel bad telling the story without a lot of energy or voice. One of Ed's friends reached out to me via email. It was a pretty cool email. I said, I'm a Bitcoiner. I'm a huge fan. My buddy Ed races the Indy 500, legendary Indy team. And we want to do something with you guys in Bitcoin somehow. Do you have any ideas? And I told my team, I was like, hey, we should convince these guys to race for Bitcoin and open source development and let us design the car. And it was this really ambitious plan I came up with. And all of my team were like, we're a startup. We have plenty of work to do. Why the fuck would we do that? It sounds really hard, not going to work. And we don't even have the time for that. We're trying to like make it as a company. And I was like, well, shut the fuck up. That sounds lame. And so we did it. And I told him, here's my plan. We either race for Bitcoin or I'm not involved. Like, I don't want Strike to be on the car. I don't want to race for payments or for point of sale integrations. We should take all the money, give it to Bitcoin open source development, and the car should be totally for Bitcoin and for freedom, inclusion, all of the things, because Bitcoin's just so good for everyone. And that's how we get the community behind it. And that's how we do something good with the opportunity you guys have. And that's what happened. And they were very on board with it. And we set up a 501c3 at Strike, and we designed the car ourselves. And we basically raced it ourselves as well. And we raised a bunch of money. And I mean, not all of it went to Bitcoin open source because they have their own costs. So they gave me the number that would be break even for them. And then everything else was donated to open source developers. And I think it was the car that led the most laps. So
I was gonna say, yeah, it was always on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And
Yeah,
I mean,
there were two really cool tidbits about that day that I remember, which is one, it was the most globally watched Indy 500 of all time by a large volume. And we think that's likely in part to do with the fact that Bitcoin's a global movement. This was a big moment for Bitcoin, like arguably the largest sports stage it had ever been on at the time. And the viewership followed, which I thought was really cool. And the other thing was that we were positioned right next to the PNC Bank car. And so we were kind of chirping them for obvious reasons. And then that car ended up breaking and needed to pit itself and was like, it was the perfect story. PNC Bank's car ran insolvent that day, and the Bitcoin car was still flying around the racetrack, which was fucking awesome.
yeah, Saquon came. That was the first time Saquon, I think, was pretty public that he was a Bitcoiner. He went. It was me, him, and Ross Ulbricht for the national anthem. So yeah, the network effects of Bitcoin. Everyone, it's the universal asset. Everyone's on Team Bitcoin. Bitcoin's helpful to individuals, families, companies, countries, banks, IndyCar drivers. Bitcoin helps everybody. So it was a cool moment. And I went from that to the El Salvador announcement too. So that was quite the stretch for us.
You guys were so exhausted.
I know.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me how I feel right now. I mean, I have to go this time next week. We'll be talking about the trip that I'm about to take. And so, yeah, sometimes get on a lot of flights and don't get enough sleep and your voice dies out on you. So yeah, that was quite the stretch, but it's been like that for 10 years now. Any other questions? Okay. Well, sorry again to the audience. I don't feel too well, but you got quite the crowd now. I mean, Mailbag Mondays got both my parents and Dylan. These are awesome. For a lot of this one, I was just an audience member. I was enjoying it. A little bit of OG experience, history, a lot of financial expertise. And I mean, we're building one of the biggest Bitcoin companies in the space too. So we're on the front lines, traveling through it all. So this is a lot of fun. If you guys have any comments or questions or ways that we can improve or things you want to see from us, let us know. We read all the comments. We think they're hilarious. They're great. You guys are so supportive. So we're super thankful for that. Thank you guys for giving Brooke such a warm welcome. Everyone loves you, Cookie. So that was really heartwarming for us. And we record these no matter what, rain, sleet, or snow, shine. How's the saying go? Every single Monday, whether we're sick or holidays or whatever it is. So we'll see you guys next week, no matter what. And we really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Dylan.
Yep.
Get
See
long,
ya.
get paid.